Good afternoon, guys. I hope you were good today. Now, I'm sure some of you, especially those of you who live in South Africa, have heard the voice note that has been going around that is talking about they owe us. It has been passed around on WhatsApp. It has been shared a number of times. And I am the one that made that particular voice note. And it is important for you to understand that I don't make these voice notes to be popular, to be famous, but I make these voice notes for us to inform our people. I have been given a talent and a blessing to take information, simplify it, and give it to the people. Because a lot of what Africans are suffering is a lack of knowledge of what it is that is going on to them, in their countries, and in the world. So I'm making this video to reiterate what it is that I meant when I said, they owe us. And I would like you to take this very same video and send it to the same people that have got the voice note so that they understand what it is that I'm talking about when I say they owe us. South Africa is a country that was under apartheid. Some will say for 350 years, some will say 400 years, but officially we will say that it was under apartheid for 60, 65 years. But within this apartheid that happened, South Africa made South African white people and white people in the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and America filthy rich because of the resources that came out of this country. South Africans themselves had their parents who were slaves. Slaves to white people, slaves to the apartheid government, slaves to the policies of this nation that in turn enriched the white people that were utilizing black South Africans as slaves. South Africans lost their land, they lost their livestock, they paid poll taxes to support an apartheid government that was destroying their lives, killing them, and taking away opportunity from them. Not only was labor taken from black South Africans, but you'll also understand that the ideas of some of these black South Africans that were contributed in the companies in which they worked, they were never rewarded for. And that intellectual property went on to make some of the companies in this country filthy rich. Now, if you don't understand the context of how it is that this country has been exploited and why people owe us, you just need to understand that Glencore, the biggest in terms of revenue of the mining companies, is a South African creation. Created from South Africa, from South African minerals, from South African resources. Anglo-America, one of the biggest mining conglomerates in the world, comes from South Africa, from South African resources, South African labor, and selling those resources to the world. Sasol, one of the biggest chemical companies in the world, is a South African company created by South African labor, South African resources, South African sales to become one of the biggest chemical companies in the world. South African breweries was the second biggest brewer in the world, created by South African customers, South African resources, South African product to make it the biggest brewer in the world after Eisenhower Bush. This is all examples of huge South African companies that all ran away from South Africa once independence came to South Africa to go and list in international exchanges because they feared that there was going to be nationalization. They feared that the South African was eventually going to say, we need a return of investment, return on investment for all the exploitation that you have done to the South African public. This is why they left, and this is why they left with their monies. This is why they left with their intellectual property that they got out of this country to go and put their centers in Europe. They're trying to protect their ill-gotten gains. But here is the kicker. South Africa is not owned by white South Africans. South Africa is not owned only by white people that live in this country. South Africa is owned by the entire world, because this country has given more resources to the world than any other country in the world. And I know a lot of you don't understand what I mean by that. South Africa has given more gold, more diamonds, more platinum, more uranium, chrome. You name all these resources, South Africa has given them to the world, enriching the world, but not enriching South Africa, not enriching South Africans. South Africa has given more resources to the world than Saudi Arabia has given oil to the world. South Africa has given more resources to the world than United Arab Emirates, where you find Dubai, has given oil to the world. Just the gold that has come out of South Africa is worth $4.5 trillion that was given to the world. They say that for 10 years, just before independence, the South African Reserve Bank gave in excess of $240 billion worth of gold to Swiss and American banks in order to deal with their debts. This is gold that is supposed to be South African gold. This is gold that could have created South Africa's sovereign wealth fund, but it did not create a sovereign wealth fund for South Africa because that money was externalized. That gold was externalized and it was sold in a private capacity by the South African Reserve Bank, which was acting on behalf of the South African government as a custodian of South African gold on behalf of the nation. That gold was sold by a privately owned reserve bank to European nations, to Switzerland, to the Americans, without a return on investment in the country it came from. So you've got this country that has contributed the most resources to the world over the past 150 years. This nation that has created more millionaires and billionaires in the world, including the Rothschild family, who control most of the world's gold that came from South Africa. But South Africa has not benefited. South Africa does not have a sovereign wealth fund from those resources that have created billionaires, millionaires, and even trillionaires in centers of the world other than South Africa itself. And what is sad is, while South Africa has contributed 54% of the gold that is in the world, all the gold that is in the world, South Africa is now running out of these very same resources. South Africa is now left with only 30 years of gold. And you've got no black gold miners, you've got no black-owned mines, you've got no sovereign fund from your gold. The country has been impoverished, but where did the money go? This is why I say they owe us. And some of you might say, you're a Zimbabwean. What do you mean they owe us? They owe us? Well, my children are South African, but if I don't qualify, I'm going to say they owe you. And it is time you understand how they owe you. And because of the wealth that this country has given to the world, because of your free labor that was given to the world to enrich these people, you will understand that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, when it comes to national terms, is the 12th biggest stock exchange in the world. It is worth $1.3 trillion. For a small country like South Africa, your stock exchange is worth $1.3 trillion, but you're not the 12th biggest nation in the world. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why you could have such a big stock exchange, such a stock exchange that makes so much money, a stock exchange that has returned more returns to its investors at a rate of 7% real return over a period of 117 years since the stock exchange was set up. Ask yourself why this stock exchange that has enriched the world and has a higher rate of return than any other stock exchange has not enriched black South Africans. Ask yourself how it is possible that you could have the stock exchange that has enriched people the most in 17 years, where we have had apartheid, we have had wars, but still it returned more return to its investors than any other stock exchange. Ask yourself why. because you're the richest nation in the world. There is no other nation that has given more resources and more labor that have enriched people more than South Africa Incorporated. And that's why I make these videos, reiterating the same message again and again so that you fully understand what your nation is, the level of exploitation it has gone under, and what it means for you and your future, and why you must respond and react today and now. South Africa is one of the biggest 7 producers of coal in the world now. The biggest producer of platinum, one of the biggest, if not the biggest producer of chrome, the biggest producer of platinum-related products. So you've got rhodium, palladium, and all these products are traded on what is called the London Platinum Palladium Market. On this London Platinum Palladium Market, no South African bank sits there. You've got BASF, Standard Chartered, UBS, and I think you've got Goldman Sachs. There is no South African bank. There is no African bank. And when the discussion has been had with your South African miners or platinum mine owners as to why there is no South African bank involved in the setting of the price of platinum, they have said that they don't want platinum to be set by a government in South Africa. They prefer the world market to determine. But there is no world market determining the price of platinum. It's a group of private individuals. And the reason why your platinum miners don't care is that they are Europeans, they are Americans. Lonrho, Anglo-America, Glencore are the same people that are controlling your platinum, and there are Europeans who also sit on the boards of the very same banks that are sitting as a monopoly to determine the price of your platinum. When it comes to gold, the gold is determined again on the London Bullion Exchange, or the London Bullion Market Association. Another group of private banks, Scotia Bank, I think we've got Deutsche Bank, we have got JP Morgan, we have got Hong Kong Bank, HSBC, and a number of other banks, to make them 7 banks that set the price of gold that comes from South Africa. China is now the biggest producer of gold, and the biggest buyers of gold are Indians, but there are no Indian banks, no South African banks, and no Chinese banks. This is why the world owes you. Your resources are enriching these private cartels of gold, platinum, diamonds, uranium, all of which South Africa is one of the biggest producers, if not the biggest producer. And all this wealth is being made in Europe, in America, and it's not coming to South Africa. Now, I've been giving messages like this for a very long time, and it does not come without a cost. I've got clients that I've worked for this year that have not paid me in excess of 8 months. One of those clients is the biggest consumer moving goods company in the world, Procter & Gamble. They've refused to pay me for work that they want for 9 months, giving excuse after excuse after excuse. I've got another international company called Diageo. They also have not been paying me for 9 months. Do you think this is a coincidence? It's not. Because these global companies have got so much money, they don't have to hold out on a small man like me. But they hold out because what I'm speaking, what I'm talking about, is warfare. This education, this knowledge that we dish out to make Africans know the exploitation that they're under, make Africans know that their nations are wealthy, powerful nations, it's weapons when brought into the human conscience and utilized to make the right decisions. So I am under attack for the messages that I'm sending. And right now I'm sending message after message. You never know why I'm sending those messages, but my spirit is making me send them. Maybe I won't be here tomorrow. We don't know. But what I'm saying is take this information, share it with your friends and family. Let people understand that when we talk about South Africa being a geopolitical strategic nation, it's not sentiment. We are saying that South Africa has given more to the world than the United Arab Emirates, than the nation that has got Dubai, but South Africa does not have a Dubai. South Africa has been giving resources to the world before Dubai found gold. Found oil. Dubai has got a $800 billion sovereign fund. Norway, which found gas and oil just recently, not more than 40 years ago, have got a sovereign fund that's almost $1 trillion. But South Africa, the nation that has given more resources than Norway, Dubai, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, has got people that are still using the bucket system. You have heard this message before, but I'm reiterating it so that you understand the level of exploitation. Your mothers are still maids to white people. Some of you can't get free education. Norway has got free education. Germany has got free education from resources that come from South Africa. Your mothers are going to work at the age of 60 years of age to work for white families in order to survive in the richest nation on earth, in the nation that has created more wealth than any other for people outside the nation. This is something that must be taken seriously. And this is a message that must be reiterated again and again. And it is a message that will make them come after me. But I can't stop. I cannot stop. So you need to understand the resources you've given to the world. You need to understand the wealth you've given to the world. You need to understand the number of billionaires that you've created who don't even live in your nation. You need to understand the number of international giants that were created in South Africa by South African money, by South African labor, by black labor, by South African savings, by job preservation for white people. And the moment you got independence, all that wealth, all that money was externalized. Nuclear weapons were developed in South Africa on South African labor, South African taxes. And the moment South Africa got independence, the world asked for South Africa to divest and destroy its nuclear weapons. That is all input from you. So they owe us. They owe you. They owe you for your labor. They owe you for your resources. They owe you for the lost opportunities. They owe you for all the jobs that your parents couldn't get. Any person that's got property in the suburbs in South Africa, any white person that has got property in the suburbs in South Africa, when they were not competing with other races to buy that property, when other people were excluded, and today they've got properties that have got raising prices now because millions of black people are now in the market that they were excluded from. That is them owing you. Reparations must be paid. Damages must be paid. What we call in law restitution in integrum must take place to restore black South Africans into the position they would have been, and to take unjust enrichment from white South Africans and the international community where the greatest millionaires and billionaires have been made. The Rothschild family that you hear people talk about, the one that they say is the richest family in the world, are rich because they hold the world's gold. It is South African gold. They're rich because they hold platinum. They're rich because they backed Anglo-America. They backed De Beers. That is South African diamonds. That is South African gold. That is South African coal. They are behind all the great banks that sit in this country. They are behind FNB. They are behind ABSA. They are behind Barclays. The Rothschilds control the South African economy through proxies who are Broederbonders, Freemasons, controlling your economy on behalf of the Rothschilds and their king, the Rothschilds and the Queen of England's family, the Rothschilds and the Morgans, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. That's who controls the South African economy. That's who protected the apartheid government. That is who has sucked the sovereign wealth fund of this nation and enriched themselves. I will not stop making these videos until you start understanding, in simple terms, the level of control. Your Reserve Bank is a culprit because it is privately owned by the very same private banks, the very same commercial banks, your ABSAs, your FNBs, at the exclusion of black banks, at the exclusion of your development banks that are controlled by government, at the exclusion of anyone else. And they have the last say. And they even give advice to your Minister of Finance. They give advice for the monetary policy of this nation. And that is given by private banks. They owe you. That is what I mean when I say they owe you. You're not owed only by white South Africans, you're owed by the world. You're owed by Europe. You're owed by America. What you need to do about that is a different subject altogether. The issue is you've got to know how they owe you. And only then can you start working out the policy, pressuring your branches of the ANC, pressuring your branches of the EFF on how you need to make future policies. Because the gold of your nation has run out enriching other people without enriching South Africans. South Africans continue to live in locations, in townships, yet townships were created as slave concentration camps. In the richest nation on earth, in the nation with the stock exchange that has given the highest level of return to the world, you continue to live using bucket systems. You continue to live in concentration camps, but yet the Jewish concentration camps in Germany were done away with. I'm willing to pay the price. And sadly, sometimes the price might even be paid at the hands of our own. But as long as you have the knowledge, as long as these videos will stay in perpetuity for you to listen, if you don't understand them today, you might understand them tomorrow and they might make sense tomorrow. They owe us. And if you think I'm not one of you, they owe you. You've got to speak this message. You've got to understand this message. South African breweries must bring back what it owes South Africa. Glencore must bring back what it owes South Africa. If Anglo-America must bring back what it owes South Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lonro must bring back what it owes South Africa. De Beers must bring back what it owes South Africa. Anglo-Ashanti must bring back what it owes South Africa. Goldfields must bring back what it owes South Africa. Discovery must bring back what it owes you, your parents, and past generations. These nations were created, these companies were created by apartheid. They were created off your pillage. ABSA must bring back what it owes you. FNB, which was actually Barclays. It was Barnett. Barclays National. That's what FNB was. ABSA is today Barclays. So Barclays and FNB are the same. Nedbank comes from Old Mutual. I could talk all day. But white monopoly capital continues because you let it. You are the policy makers. The black people are running parliament. You have a majority. If you come together as black people, you're making the policies that protect the very same exploiters that exploited your parents. You, the political parties, you, the branch members, you have got to put the pressure to start pushing your politicians to make the policies that enable you to start enjoying the benefits of being the richest nation in the world before your resources are depleted. Right now, for those who trade coal, there are grades of coal that are no longer found in South Africa. The highest grade of coal in South Africa is called B2. You do not find RB2 coal in South Africa anymore. It's rare. Low sulfur coal is now difficult to find in South Africa, yet low sulfur coal is what is required in the world now that the world is going green. It's being depleted. Your gold is becoming more difficult to get. Your platinum is becoming more difficult to get. Your diamonds are almost finished. And we've got millions of black South Africans to empower, to take out of the bucket system, to take out of the townships when the resources are getting worn out. Have a good day.